Greetings and welcome to our daily Devo for Wednesday, the 9th of August today. We are still basically in the Christmas story, but hopefully you've been noting along with me that the Christmas story goes forward because of the obedience and sacrifice of regular everyday believers in God. And I think that's important for us to catch here. Today it's the birth of Jesus announced to Joseph. He's going to be let in on the big surprise today. That's obviously from Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. And the words of the angel who came to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. Yet another miracle. And Joseph, though he goes off the scene in our gospel accounts. He's an important figure here because of the connection he makes in the family line of Jesus from David on. The news crushed Joseph. His bride to be was pregnant. Whenever I read this story and I see how much in a turmoil people are about these things, I look at my own culture and nobody thinks that's a big deal anymore. It's actually pretty common, right? His bride to be was pregnant. He did not know how, but he knew he must take extreme action that could have grave implications for the plan of salvation. What else could he do? Joseph was a righteous man, and he knew the rules. Their parents had arranged a marriage. An agreement had been signed. For the next year after that agreement is signed, he and Mary were to spend time together growing their relationship while avoiding sexual intimacy. Now Joseph was reeling from the news of Mary's pregnancy. Knew it wasn't him. He quickly dismissed the thought of going ahead with the marriage. This would be tantamount to acknowledging that he was the father, something that would bring shame on him and on his family in this small village of Nazareth. He loved Mary, but needed to end the marriage contract. But how? Well, the first option was a public divorce, during which he would stand before the village elders and denounce Mary for her infidelity. This would exonerate him, but expose Mary to public shaming or worse. The law would have allowed a stoning to take place. Instead, he chose to divorce her quietly, the term is used. This would end it without dragging Mary into the public eye. Just 2 or 3 witnesses would give testimony and the marriage contract would be annulled. He knew that this would leave questions about his role in her pregnancy, but it would spare Mary the worst of it. As he considered this, an angel appeared to him in a dream and changed his mind. Yes, Mary was pregnant, but it was not because she had been unfaithful to Joseph. For Jesus to accomplish his mission, he needed to be both divine and human. The Holy Spirit would be the child's father. Mary's job was to give Jesus the mortality that made him both Jesus, the Lord saves, is what that word means, and Emmanuel, God with us. So what was Joseph's role in all of this? He would be Jesus' stepfather. And he, being a son of David, he gave Jesus something Mary could not. Within the Jewish cultural orbit, the father or stepfather established a child's relationship to the extended family tree. Many challenged Jesus' claim to be the Messiah, but the Gospels do not record a single challenge to Jesus's family history or ancestry. He was a descendant of David, thanks to Jesus's other father, Joseph. Sue is using this book for her own devotions in the morning as well, and so she reads it, and then it gets passed on to me to share. And we discussed the family tree, as it were, those passages in Matthew and Luke that seem to go on with a whole ton of names we can't pronounce and names we don't really know about, that ancestry. And yet every one of them is a link in the chain. Link in the chain of what God was up to bring the prophecies to bear, to bring his plan of salvation into the world, that Satan's work might be crushed and his prevail. And so in this case, the man-made law, as it were, of father and stepfather was what he used. Joseph was not the direct father. The Holy Spirit is, by supernatural causes. But in the culture, he could take Mary and Jesus into his house and be considered the stepfather. And while there'll be some who want to, gossip about this, people have never changed in all of history. They love to gossip, cast aspersions, especially when they don't have a clue as to what the whole story is. Here he is. Jesus is coming on the scene. And here's Joseph, a righteous man, who at his own decision-making process was going to do the nicest thing he could do and not have Mary publicly shamed or even put to death. So he was close. And then the angel shows up. These are the things we need to think about when we're making tough decisions. Wait and listen. What is your will, Lord? What do you have for me? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to handle this situation? What's the decision that will be according to your will? And that's key in all of our praying. Just as Jesus prayed in the garden, Father, not my will, but yours. Joseph becomes an example of that as well. Maybe Jesus saw that in his stepfather's life growing up, and it made an impact on him. Blessings to you today, and be on the lookout for what the Lord has for you to do today.